Thank you so much for having me. I want to thank particularly Bill and Clark. And I go to a lot of academic conferences as a professor, but I never hear this much reason in one brief time, I have to say. And also, I would pay the price of admission to hear Laura Garcia try not to confuse people with philosophy, but still manage to convey truth to us, and to hear Ed Whalen use words like lousy in public, because he's so refined in his speech. Yes. So what I would like to do is to think about another possible future strategy that would put pressure on the law respecting abortions. And remembering that what we have done, and I guess I've been at this since about the late 80s, working first in the legal office for the bishops, then the pro-life office, was that we were trying to remind people what they were doing when they were doing an abortion. And it really struck a chord with me when Laura said, we thought, we tell them the facts. I used to show up at interviews with the media with embryology textbooks and think that that would help, because we knew that William Buckley had it right when he said the problem with abortion rights is abortion. And we thought, okay, we've got this. That didn't work, and we were flummoxed. I would like to think now with you about the possibility that instead of reminding people what they're doing when they do abortion, we begin to remind people what they're doing when they're having sex, okay? That I think we need to remind them that sex is not tennis, as they say in the movie Friends with Benefits, right? In fact, Planned Parenthood has taken all the fun out of sex. I mean, for them, it's like tennis, but it's grim, and when you're done, you roll over and you check and see where you can get your emergency contraception that morning, because you'll be in a panic if you don't. We have to have people reflect, religious or not, that somehow the person who put sex together with babies could have put it anywhere. The Creator could have done it anyhow, anyway, but somehow it's here. And so I'm not saying we're going to get as far as John Paul II's Love and Responsibility, where he talks about thinking about potential partners, lover, spouse, as parent. You're going to be the father or the mother of my child. I'm not suggesting we can go from 0 to love and responsibility in a heartbeat, but I think we could move a good bit in that direction. I call this the demand side of abortion. So I want to first, I'm from George Mason, right, law and econ people. So I'm going to first talk about the supply and demand sides of abortion. Then I'm going to talk about how it is that I think we could make some progress on what I'll call the demand side. And then I'll talk a little about how we might do it and reasons for hope there. First, with respect to what we've been doing for a long time, mostly, not completely, we have been doing the supply side of abortion. And AUL in particular is doing these fabulous laws on putting pressure on abortion clinics to close, to rethink, to be regulated so that they couldn't possibly keep up with actually doing healthy things in their clinics like other health clinics have to do. You also have AUL on the Susan B. Anthony list and others, Lila Rose, Live Action, going after Planned Parenthood, the most disturbing, don't even get me started, purveyor of everything that is wrong about women and life, and going after the supply side of abortion there. Operation Rescue, which is not your mother's Operation Rescue. It is not people with bullhorns. It's people watching patiently outside of clinics and getting them closed and alerting state regulators and the CDC, who pay no mind to deaths or injuries at these clinics, really, that something is going on there. So the supply side is really being pressured. Now, there is also some pressure on the demand side already, right? The demand being women's wanting it, or somebody wanting and demanding abortion. The marvelous ultrasound laws. I noticed, Charmaine, in your debate the other night on the NewsHour, which was so well done, the NARALs, the transvaginal ultrasound. I'm like, I'm eating dinner, but they want to make it seem harsh and awful and intrusive, and that's what they call it. We're showing them a picture of their child. Informed consent, crisis pregnancy centers. These are appealing to the woman not to demand the abortion. But still, our abortion numbers are still really high. They're really high. And we know there was a decline during the 90s, but they have now either stayed pretty high or pop up occasionally, but stay high. And it seems to me that the explanation is as a boatload of law and economics literature has it that when you put together, and we could go on about this, so the seminal article was in 1996, but there's been tons of literature since, Duke, George Mason, Penn, et cetera, that when you change the sex mating and marriage markets to make the price of sex low and the availability of escaping pregnancy so that the weight, I call it the unbearable lightness of sex, the weight of sex is no weight at all, it's tennis, then there is a higher demand for premarital sex, and so we have seen an increase in the rates of non-marital pregnancy, non-marital sex, non-marital births, and abortions since the widespread introduction of contraception, okay? And there's no reason to think this is going to end. Now, the people who put out the articles that show this, in some cases, particularly the seminal article by Nobel Prize-winning economist George Akerlof, his wife, Janet Yellen, who's a Federal Reserve chairman out in California, have said, well, no, we still want to keep abortion and contraception obviously very legal, but they suggest, you know, just more and more government programs to make it more available, thus the HHS mandate. And they're also suggesting something that you really, and we really ought to keep our eye on, we are already, but even more so, is the acronym for it is LARCs, right? Long-acting reversible contraception. Many of these have the potential to act as abortifacients. And then emergency contraception, obviously the FDA's own and the pharmaceutical companies' own packaging, we know that it can act in the case of certain women at certain times in their cycle as abortifacients because it takes the life out of an embryo. Now, this is their strategy going forward, is LARCs. And you may have noticed that when the HHS mandate came out, if you read the report supporting it, a part of it, that report kept saying, if we could just get more women on long-acting reversible contraception. And then what a surprise, the St. Louis study comes out just in time for the HHS to read it and say, look, they fed these women more contraception, it was free, they used it, the abortion rate went down. They took a poor population of inner-city St. Louis women. They visited them 7 times, told them, swallow this, it's free, and voila, they sterilized them for 3 to 5 years with long-acting, by the way, it takes a surgeon to get it out, contraception, and the abortion rate went down. Now, even setting aside the moral hazards of this, right, the temptation to use it among the poor, minority populations, immigrants, that's what they did before when Norplant was invented. The other aspects of this, of course, of that in those populations where it has been distributed, it drives the abortion rate up, not down. The British studies, the Spanish studies show that girls' premarital pregnancy and abortion rates tended to go up, not down, okay? So, but that, I'm telling you, is coming in the future. It's not going to solve our abortion numbers, but that's what they want. How are we going to deal with this, in addition to the government promoting abortion, long-acting reversible contraception, to abortion being legal? How are we going to deal with this when nobody really countenances this evidence that what may work at an individual, contraception, long-acting reversible contraception, drives abortion rates down? That's what people think. On a social level, it always drives them up. How are we going to grapple with this? In addition to the fact that we have all of these environmental, cultural factors, the cheapening of sex. I mean, when women are dressing as vaginas at the DNC and that the press thinks that's a good thing, when Lena Dunham puts out an ad for the Obama re-election campaign and says, compares voting to him being like good sex and gets away with it, when the Center for Reproductive Law and Policy, I'm sure you've seen, most of you, they're incredibly revolting videos where a very handsome African-American guy with a glass of scotch and a rose, in very sexy voice in a very dimly lit room, toasts Roe. Sort of, it looks like, if you turned the sound up, it looked like he would be inviting you to have sex with him, but really he's just toasting Roe versus Wade, baby, which he says 100 times. When the president, when the National Women's Law Center, when Planned Parenthood is defending the HHS mandate on the grounds that it will allow people like Sandra Fluck, or I was on programs like Diane Rehm, or doing dueling editorials with Planned Parenthood, and they're saying it's because their unmarried daughters really need 365 days a year of contraception because otherwise they'll get pregnant. When sex is this nothing, how do you deal with this? How do you address what the other side believes is what creates the need for abortion and can't be done away with? The fact that all these women are going to be engaging in this precise sex mating and marriage market as we have it, getting pregnant, and, according to the world standard of success, then needing not to be pregnant. Well, I do think we have to lay out the facts about the sex mating and marriage market that we're in. And in doing so, I have to tell you, I think we're not in a bad position. I mean, anyone who keeps up with the covers of Atlantic Monthly or pieces in Slate and Salon or the Huffington Post or some other marvelous authors out there, women, young women, talking about what it's like out there in the marketplace for sex mating and marriage will tell you that they're not happy, really, with the unbearable lightness of sex. And that they actually would like, and this will get me crucified, my feminist card from the 80s, which I still carry in my wallet, will be removed and burnt in the Capitol. I think women would like to get married a little younger and have their children a little younger, so sue me, okay? I just do. And what Naomi Wolf said at the end of her piece is true. That will take away my feminist card. When the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists put out a statement to the effect that your fertility starts to decline in your mid to late 30s, women ripped the signs out of the Metro and burned them. Yale University, in their own alumni magazine, just did a piece on women coming to doctors at Yale at 42 and saying, I'm done, I'm at where I need to be in my career, I can have a baby now. And they're saying, I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you. You've got like a 3 to 5% rate now. And some of them, were shocked. I think we need to have this frank conversation that what Naomi Wolf said is true. And nothing, Jennifer Roback Morse, I don't know if you know her, but she writes gorgeously about the culture accommodating us better. How might the law help us in this, in addition to this kind of cultural conversation online, with all our networks, in our churches? How might the law help us here? I've written an awful lot about this in a paper I called Beyond the Sex Ed Wars. And I propose a few things, and I'll have a few minutes left to conclude briefly on these. One is we have to take away the bad stuff in the law, where the law says things like unprotected sex makes babies. Oh, wow, a failure of technology manufactures human life. I thought sex made babies. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. We need to reconnect it in people's minds, that what you are doing has meaning. I think both men and women would appreciate it if we put a little bit of the meaning back into it. Now, of course, we'd have to defeat the porn industry alongside of that, okay? But we'll work on that too. But I'm just saying, we need to put this back together. We have to suck the bad stuff out of the sex ed as it's currently being done. I talked about this in the article. We have also to absolutely go against something like the HHS mandate, not just with a call for religious freedom, but also with frank discussion of how the government has it all wrong on women's freedom. And they're simplistic, they're empirically wrong, they're culturally wrong. Same-sex marriage is another arena where sex as procreative is attempted to be utterly demolished, and that is part and parcel of our portfolio. I think we need to put good content back into sex ed, if we could get that far. And of course, we need to reform our marriage laws regarding entrance and exit, our divorce laws, waiting periods for getting married, all of these things, so that we put sex, marriage, and the well-being of children together in one place. Bring marriage back onto the horizon as a safe place to go, to have your children, and to be stable with them. So in conclusion, this is a revolution I'm talking about, but a revolution is needed. And I think there's a lot of women ready for it. And I think men would be happy in the long run, even though they won't believe me in the short run. We have to take a revolution. And I like to call Planned Parenthood and the Obama administration the man. We have to take it to the man. What is the man? The man is the very powerful set of voices who tells you what reality is, even though they're lying. They pull all the levers, they have the money, they have the agencies, and they've got the government right now, they've got the media, the entertainment industry, and the academy. We have to engage in a revolution against the man. We have truth on our side. People think this is difficult, it's true, but I don't actually think it's been tried yet, so don't call it too difficult to do. Thank you very much.